Hi everybody, this is Katie. Welcome to episode 5 of Ancient Japanese Gardens. Today I'm going to be up here above Pico's garden in this big space, and I'm going to be putting together a statue garden for Zucker. I have this statue right here is the warrior statue, and I really like the way that it looks, and I want to use it in his area to kind of be a feature. The thing is I want to put it underground just a little bit. I mean, not underground, but on the next level down. The problem is I've got to jump into Island Designer here so that I can show you the problem. If I want to go ahead and dig down here in the middle of the land, as you know, you can't. You can only dig up, which is a little bit tricky. And that is why I've decided to do Zucker's garden next. Because if you look, I have room here in Zucker's area to dig over from the cliff, and that's how you have to do it if you want to create a hole. I don't exactly know where to situate it, but I do want to make a diamond style and have quite a few of these little warrior statues down inside of it. So I'm looking through the area here to figure out how far up and down to go. I'm not quite sure, right? I'm working on this other level. So I'm kind of thinking about right here in the middle of this cliff space, and I'm going to dig over. All right, I finished creating the hole and filled the rest back in. So now I'm gonna go grab Zucker's house and put it in my pocket so I can start gauging where I need to put that house down. With Zucker's house in my pocket, I'm running back over the area. I want to put down a tree. You see, I want to make sure that there's room for a tree on this side over here before I can then space out his house. So I'm just going to plant this tree down here real quick. Now I'm going to move over. I really want his house to go down next to the tree and have enough room before the hole in the ground. I'm not sure if that's going to work out, if there's enough space, so that's what we're figuring here. So I've got the kit in hand and we're going to put it down. So let's imagine it and see if the tree stays. It does. Perfect. Okay. The reason I've picked his house, by the way, is because he has a red door, and I really wanted to transition with that red color from Pico's area because I think that'll work really well. Okay, Zucker's house is down, and so now I'm looking at the area right next to it. I want to have room for a flower garden, so I'm going to use the dark dirt here to put down a little bit of space right below where the flowers are going to go. And then I want room for a path and maybe a wall. Let's see if there's enough space. Let's get the flower patch down first. So I'm just going to put down probably just 3 simple spots. With flower gardens, I usually try to do at least 3 flower spots before I consider that little spot done. And then I'm going to put down a path here, and I'm going to start with just a couple here on the left side, and then I think we'll do a couple right side. I definitely want all of the paths to have at least 2 spaces wide as I move throughout the island. So we'll do a couple right ones here, and already I can see that the hole I made is going to have to come back at least 1. So I'm going to go ahead and crawl down here into my hole, which I can get to easily now with my ladder, and I'm going to bring it back 1 space so that I have room for the rest of the path. Now, the thing is, I really wanted to have enough room for a fence as well, so let's go ahead and bring it back 1 more and crawl back out here and see whether or not it looks like we're going to have enough room. Well, over here it works fine, so let's go ahead and put down a little bit of that fencing. I don't need a ton over here, just a little bit to make sure I have the spacing correct. And with the stone fence, I think that that's going to work really well for my statue garden. That I'm feeling really good about. Now all I need to do is create the rest of the hole for the warrior statues and start moving on with the decorations for the rest of the area. Let's get to it. Time to jump into the speed build. All right, I've decided to do a diamond in this area, and I realize I need to figure out where the statues are also going to go. So as I'm putting together the space, I've decided to start kind of in the back area and put a couple of statues down and see how they space out. I really want to go back and forth with the statues, and I wasn't sure at this point when I was building whether that was going to work correctly. So I just decided I was going to start with one, and then I was going to move over to the side and see whether or not they situated correctly in the space. I'm putting down some dark dirt below them, and I definitely wanted to put a pattern on top of this so that it would look like a little bit of dirt and dust down in there, and I thought maybe the stones would work. Nope, it didn't. So I've decided to just create a really quick little pattern, and I decided to leave this in the speed build because at several times in the past you guys have asked me about creating designs, and this is a really fast design. So I'm just coming in with some basic brown colors. I'm just doing a little bit of medium dirt, and then I went back in through with some darker dirt, and I'm literally just moving around and randomly putting together squidges in place, and then coming back through and doing a few little dots here and there to fill in the pattern. It's really quick and simple to put down just some basic dirt, and the pattern goes a long way to pulling the design in the area together. So I put it down and fill in the space, and I can already tell at this point, even though I'm putting it down, that it's probably a little bit too dark. I didn't want to create multiple patterns. I just wanted the one because it was going to be below the statues, and it just kind of looks a little bit too much. So I'm going over to the changed color option, and I just lightened it up, which is perfect. Now it blends in a little bit more and is just background aesthetic, which of course was the point of putting it together in the first place. And then I resumed putting the statues down. I really liked the way they spaced out a little bit better than I thought, kind of backward and forward, and I wasn't quite sure how many of the statues I was going to need, and so now I'm trying to figure out how to both get them all down where I want them to, but then also be able to climb out of the space correctly. And I finally figured out how to do that, which was actually putting a little extra space in the front, which made it easier to see the statues too, so that worked out perfect. I had one extra statue, so I thought about including that elsewhere in the statue garden, which I do decide not to do in the end, which is fine because I did have a couple other statues that I wanted to include, and I really only wanted 3. So here I'm including the stone fencing around the entire area just so that it looks enclosed and no one falls in and hurts themselves, and I'm starting on the path. I thought about doing a path that kind of went around it, but there's not enough space. So I time traveled to the next state so that I could have Zucker's house in place and be ready to really see where that pathing needed to go. I don't want to just go straight on the path. The benefit of using one of these 9 tile space paths that's custom is that you can go in diagonals, and the diagonals really give it a lot of beauty and can move very aesthetically along with the elements that you're building. But it also needed to mostly go straight, so I created a little bit of diagonal kind of coming over to the right and then over to Zucker's house, intentionally giving the path movement. And I think that movement looks really beautiful when you're working on an Animal Crossing build. So over here in front of Zucker's house, I'm just kind of completing some of the path structure back and forth, and have decided to break the path up a little bit with more design choices based on these extra pieces that I was given, where it's both pathing and then there's kind of these extra filler pieces. I wanted the path to look ancient, right? Old, as if it had been worn for quite a few years, if not decades or even centuries. And so including some of those extra pieces took a lot of work to figure out where to start and stop the path, but it was totally worth it because in the end, all those extra spaces really give me the look I'm trying to discover. Once I get all the pathing set in place, I'm coming back through with a few different decorations, such as rock patterns that are mixed in, and I'm putting together 2 other statue spaces. So here I have 2 spots that I've put together with the little bamboo candles around them because I really wanted them to look kind of like features, but also like they were old, and have just added a couple spaces because it is a statue garden. It needed to have, in my mind, at least 3 feature positions, I guess we could call it. So I have the big, beautiful statue garden with the group of warrior statues down below, and then these other 2 that are up on top just to kind of fill in that concept. At this point now I'm going back and forth and I'm adding in other decorations, bushes, and I'm starting to move over flowers, and I'm going back and forth with more of the rock and moss patterns on the ground because I really wanted to bring in just a little bit more of that overgrown natural aesthetic. I think that these chocolate black tulips are a perfect fit for my island. I don't usually like them, but I really like the way that they actually have a little bit more brown tone in them than black, which is a great fit for kind of this antique rustic style that I'm going for. So I've decided to pull them in place. And another flower I don't use as often is the black lily, which I'm also using in this build, and I feel is also a perfect fit for the space. And again, it's because the black in the game, some of the flowers are black and some of the blacks in the game I think are actually brown, and so that's what I'm focusing on, is those brown ones. Here I'm just doing a few extra details in place, adding in again more of the moss and patterns and trees, and once I get it all put together, I'll pop back out and show you the final tour. All right, Zucker's area is all finished. Come with me and we'll take a quick tour here. So you can see with those beautiful tulips, and I put down a little bit of the cherry blossom. I feel like this item doesn't always fit very well, and I really like the way it fit tucked down into this space. And here you can see those beautiful statues tucked down into the ground. Over by his house, he has a little place to sit and enjoy some tea. I really wanted to use this pattern here for the pillow. It's one of the Able Sister patterns, and I really liked the way that the red coordinates with his door and kind of pulls some of these red colors from Pico's area up into place. I want to transition one house to the next. And then we have the two extra statues with all those beautiful bamboo candles surrounding them. And then up here to the lilies, and the path is all set and ready for our next garden. I hope you guys found something useful here and that you continue creating in this game. Until next time, have the best Animal Crossing day.